Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome from the heart of Dripping Springs. We are Mallet and Michelle, and your hosts, Michelle Lewis and Steve Mallet.
Well, hey there, sicko Michelle.
Hello,
Your voice
Steve-o.
is so high. I don't know if that's Mucinex or NyQuil or whatever.
Steroids
Gummies.
and Afrin.
I'm not sure
hot
what's
tea.
going on there.
Hey, Steve, I learned a new word this week, and
Oh my God.
it's Hurkle Durkle.
Hurkle Durkle.
Or Hurkle Durkle or Hurkle Durkle.
Hurkle Durkle, I've
Hurkle
heard.
Durkle. It's a Hurkle Durkle. You know what a Hurkle Durkle is?
It's something that's really messed up.
No, it's a 200-year-old Scottish term. It means to lounge in bed for a long time.
That's what it is, Hurkle Durkle.
I want
yeah.
a Hurkle Durkle.
You just came off a week and a half of Hurkle Durkling.
I know. I need more Hurkley Durkling.
Wow. Hey, episode 106, and that's our new intro. I already had Mike Cole, our good friend Mike Cole, said, I didn't think I was listening to the right show because of that new intro, but
Well,
it is. It's us, Mallet and Michelle.
Welcome to Remembering to Write 2024.
Yeah, I know. I've already messed it up twice today. The show still brought to you by Montana Elliott, M. Elliott Studio, and Mark
Capital
Rutledge
Farm
of Capital
Credit.
Farm Credit. Yep. So going into 2024 with those great sponsors back on board. So I have a story real quick, upcoming public meeting. We've been talking about this off and on the podcast. The road work that TxDOT is going to be doing from Oak Hill all the way through Dripping Springs. It ends at Sportsplex Drive. There is a online meeting, virtual option, and an in-person meeting Tuesday, January 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Dripping Springs Ranch Park.
I'm going to get my popcorn ready.
Yeah.
You know why? Because the same people that'll gripe and moan about the traffic are going to gripe and moan about this.
the
And you
improvements.
cannot have it both ways.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to attend it virtually, you can go on the www.texdot.gov and do a keyword search for US 290 from Oak Hill, and it'll take you to that virtual meeting. But they're going to have people there. They're going to have representatives that want your input. So be nice to them. They're not the ones actually doing it. They're just taking down your comments.
Be nice
But
to them.
now's your chance, people. Now's your chance. If you want to have a say on how that's done, you got to show up to this meeting on January 16th. Oh, so the virtual option is at 5 p.m. and the in-person one is at Dripping Springs Ranch Park, 16th of January from 6 to 8.
And nobody cares what they say, what you say on Dripping Springs Neighbors. If you want something to say, go to the
say
meeting.
it to the people that are doing the work. That's right. That's
go
right.
say it there. Hey, Steve, would you like to have extra little walking around money in your pocket?
God, I dream about that every day.
Do you know that Texas has almost $9 billion with a B dollars in unclaimed property right now?
You know, I hear that every once a year or once every couple of years. So that's just money like sitting in a bank
It's
account
like
somewhere that
dormant
nobody's
bank
claimed.
accounts, unclaimed refunds, deposits, money in safe deposit accounts, uncashed paychecks, 73 million unclaimed accounts. This money just sits in like some general fund, but the state earns interest off of your money.
Oh my God.
So I did a little digging, Mallet. And Mallet Integrity Team has an $80 check.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I have a
Wait. Where's this check at?
You have to file a claim and you have to prove that you own it. Okay, you have to send some documentation in. And it was a Chase cashier's check from, I think, 2021.
Interesting.
So I don't know what it is. Michelle Lewis, I have a $99.11 check from Ascension Hospital, probably an overpayment. Holly has a $32 check
You're
from
kidding.
Discover. Here's a good one. Colton has a $160 check from Whataburger. It was probably an
It's probably his last paycheck,
Yes.
maybe. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Cedric had money. Maury had money. So I actually did this.
So far, I'm the only one. Well, Mallet Integrity Team.
Mallet
but
Integrity Team. You didn't have any. I looked.
Personally, I didn't have
Your
any.
ex-wife actually had some in there
Oh,
too.
God, that doesn't
Yeah. But years ago, when I first heard about this, probably, gosh, it's been almost 20 years ago. I found an old account. It was my grandfather's account when he was a director or something of Salvation Army. My grandfather died in 1976. Okay.
And the state still has the money.
They had $3,000 and something dollars. So I applied for it. At the time, my mother had just passed away, so I had to send my mother's death certificate, my grandmother's death certificate, my grandfather's death certificate. I had to send affidavit of what was it called? Airship, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, my brother and I got a check. I just looked again. There is another check from Salvation Army for $1,600.
Dang, you're buying lunch at Pigpen next week.
But it's been sitting in there because it's just such a cluster bleep to try to deal with it. But my brother also has money in there. He's about $600, but he's been working on this for a while now because it was an account that he had with my mom. And since my mom died a long time ago.
So where do you go if you want to start the process of trying to get your $80?
ClaimItTexas.gov. It's
ClaimItTexas.gov. Okay.
And so they started the process last year. Things that they knew where people were actually living and their addresses, they were sending money out to them. You were getting checks from the government for whatever, or from texts from the state of Texas.
That's never happened before.
Ever.
Checks from the government for free?
$9 billion just kind of sitting in this little account that, but yeah, so you got $80.
You might have some money. You might have $3,000 sitting there.
But you know what? It's really easy. So just go back and look at your grandparents' names and stuff like that. I mean, my maiden name is pretty easy to look up. So I did find another account that my grandmother had with my aunt. And, but I called my aunt and I told her about it. And she goes, you know, your uncle, he thinks everything's a scam. And I said, Aunt Janice, this isn't a scam because this is the state that is doing it. Well, they just asked a lot of personal information. Well, you have some money sitting in there.
You have to prove that it's your money. Yeah.
So
that's good advice. That's a good way to start off 2024 too, getting a little walking around money.
Yeah, get some little $80 walking around money.
Yeah.
Hey, a real quick shout out to Austin Novosad, the former Dripping Springs High School quarterback. He helped lead Oregon to their win at the Fiesta Bowl.
That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Do you know about when he graduated?
Last year.
Yeah. Jeez, no way.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't
great.
That cool?
That's very cool.
That's cool. So good.
We have
dripping.
another Fernia is playing.
Ethan Fernia.
He's in the NFL.
Colts. He plays for the Colts. He was on the practice squad, and he just got bumped up to the playing squad. Man, so he played with Tate.
Talent from Dripping
I tell
Springs.
you, way to go, Coach Z.
Hey, you asked me last year, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not, but you asked me to start doing these little 30-second to 1-minute market updates about real estate. And I want to start that off in this now second episode, I guess.
think that's good. I think people ask us all the time, and you are an agent.
That's true. Hopefully people don't forget.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you kind of highlights from last year. So the total number of sales, this is Dripping Springs, which is basically the Dripping Springs School District, which includes Austin, 78737. Mm-hmm. In 2023, we had 1,123 sales in that area. In 2022, we had 1,270, so about 150 less. Uh-huh. And then in 2021, we had 1,294. So, God,
I would think it would be much higher.
Down.
Yeah, this is trending down.
Yeah, that's every house that's so. This is just residential, not including commercial.
Okay.
The highest price home sold in 2023 was a little house that you and I have been in off of FM 150. Our friend Frickle had it listed.
Oh, we went and didn't Chuck do the rebuild on that?
Yes, Chuck Lamont did all the work.
Okay.
So that property sold for $3,835,000.
Wow, that was a cool property.
Yeah, very, very, very well done. And then this surprised me. The lowest price home sold in 2023 in Dripping Springs sold for $262,000 on Glosson Road.
Where's Glosson Road?
It's over... I think it's kind of North 40 area, isn't it? It's a little bit north of here.
Mm-hmm. Was it a mobile home?
Yes, it was. Yeah. There were actually 6 houses in Dripping Springs that sold under $350,000. And in 21 and 22, I think the least expensive home we sold in Dripping Springs was like $425 or something.
Wow.
So it's gone down quite a bit. The average sales price in Dripping Springs in 2023 in December at the end of the year was $872,000. The average sales price for houses in Dripping Springs, and this surprised me. It was actually lower in 2022, which was a better year for real estate. It was $780K.
Why do you think that is?
Still a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, because it's just the extreme high and extreme low.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, it could have less number of sales. Inventory, like low inventory right now, means that the sales price versus list price is actually a lot closer because there's not as many houses to buy. If you got to buy a house, you don't have as much negotiating room. But
do you think sellers are getting a little bit more realistic on what their houses need to be priced at?
Yeah.
You said the word of the day is price adjustment.
Price adjustments. Yeah. What was something I saw a meme the other day, but something like it's 2024 and sellers are finally starting to realize it's not 2021 anymore. So, which 2021 was just this crazy year and prices were as high as they've ever been, but we're not there anymore.
Yeah.
So there's your little quick market update. I'll just start doing one of those.
I like that.
Every once in a while. I'm just sticking to the highlights.
Yeah, I like that. Speaking of 2021, do you remember what happened in 2021 aside from the
COVID?
No, well, we had that big power grid failure shutdown. So
was that ice?
The Ice-mageddon.
Ice-mageddon?
Yeah, Ice-mageddon. A judge in Texas just ruled that power plants have no responsibility to provide electricity in emergencies. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I didn't even know what to say to that.
The First Court of Appeals in Houston ruled that big power companies cannot be held liable for future power failures. And I think the reason is because Texas is deregulated energy market, which I don't really understand what that means. That's a big word. I don't. Do you know?
So, because they're not public utilities.
But it's going to protect the companies from lawsuits, from damages, deaths, and inconveniences. So there was a lot of lawsuits that came about. There were 250 people that died.
If the power is out through no fault of the power generator, then they can't be sued. That makes sense to me. But if they just during the ice storm go, nobody gets any power, I think they should be able to be sued for that. So hopefully I said, it's very narrow.
250 people died in February because of that blackout.
That's more than I thought.
But when the ice and snow froze up the power generators. So that's what happened. They didn't just flick them off, but I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was unprecedented. We haven't never had an ice event like that.
Well,
I'm sure we have, but not in any time, not the time that I've been here.
My neighbors just got a whole house generator. And so we said, this is the year that we're going to be fine. And we've been actually looking at quotes for whole house generators, and we've gotten them everywhere from 10,000, which is a little misleading because we have to run our own gas line, to 15 to 16,000. So look, the only thing I really want to do, and this is so first world problems, is I don't want to lose my pool equipment. I love my pool, and I have a teeny tiny little.
It's expensive too.
And last time all that happened, you couldn't find any kind of PVC or equipment or pool pumps. So I don't want to lose it. So
and when we had the really bad ice storm, all the well companies they usually, like, if you call them now and you need your well worked on, they'd probably be there in a day or two. But after that Snowmageddon, Ice-mageddon, sometimes they weren't able to show up for a week or 10 days. So you didn't have any water. And we had a listing, and I went into they had a covered wellhead, and the shed was insulated, but it got so cold that PVC, it looked like somebody
exploded.
It didn't just crack. It looked like somebody had put like an M80 firecracker in there, and it just shattered. It was just pieces everywhere in there. That was crazy.
Farmer's Almanac says that we're supposed to have a pretty heavy winter. And then I heard something too, which was interesting. And maybe one of our listeners can explain this to me, that the deer's backs are fatty right now. They have fatty backs, and that means we're going to have a heavy
Holly
winter.
and I were running yesterday in Belterra, and I said to her, all the deer look fatter than they normally are.
So apparently, are they?
I thought it was like they had a winter coat, but then now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, but I've seen lots of deer in the winter before, but it stood out to me that they look different.
So fat deer maybe mean
fat deer means watch out. It's going to be cold. there's an old wives' tale in the making. Oh God, can you even say that anymore? Old
no,
wives'
I don't
tale?
think canceled.
Yeah, I know. This was an interesting thing that came up. So, down Fitzhugh Road, and we had him on, Steve Warnges came on, talked to us about the Stop Music venue on Fitzhugh Road. Did you know there's a 57 cabin resort planned for Dripping Springs off of Fitzhugh Road?
I heard that, but I don't really understand why.
Why they're doing it or why there's a hubbub about it?
Yes,
well,
both.
First of all, I haven't heard any hubbub about it. And this news story, you actually found it for me on the San Antonio Express News website.
I follow San Antonio Express News because I feel like they're better than the Austin News. But I couldn't find anything in Austin about
There's
it.
nothing in it, nothing in the Austin News about it. So maybe they're keeping it quiet. But it's a 57 cabin resort it's at 12800 Silver Creek Road. This is public knowledge. This is from a recent state filing. It's going to have these cabins to stay in. It's going to have a pool and a wellness center and a restaurant right there. You know where the Health and Human Services building is off of Silver Creek and Fitzhugh Road? It's just south of there on Silver Creek.
So Discovery is supposed to have all of that too, but that's all bougie and private, and you have to be like George Clooney or something to be able to use all of that stuff. But this will be open to the public, apparently? I mean... I
guess so, yeah. This is not like a private place, but it's a couple miles. It's 2 miles west of where the 5,000 seat music venue is proposed. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that the people that are fighting against development along Fitzhugh, that battle might be lost already.
You may want to call up Steve Mallett. And
that's right. Yeah, your property's worth more now than it's ever been.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's in the area where, like I said, the Health and Human Services Prospect House and the Solara Estate Vineyards.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
It's right in that area. So
that's actually a really good location right there, though. I mean, if you're going to have a music venue, hey, now you can't gripe about that. They can go stay at the cabins.
Stop the cabin resort.
Stop the resort.
For Dripping Springs.
Stop fun. We don't want any.
Stop fun.
We
There's
don't want
your
any
banner.
more.
Just stop fun.
No more fun.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
We have Barrett Criswell,
who is the area FCA director, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a guy I've known for probably 10 years, who's a hell of an athlete, by the way. A lot of people don't know that about him. But he's going to come in here and share with us all about his journey to being the area FCA director.
I hope I can get through it without sneezing, coughing, or snorting.
Sicko. You got that flu that's going around.
I don't have the flu.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you know that for sure?
Yeah.
Did you get tested?
No.
Then you don't know.
But I never had a fever. I just have the crud.
I'm sure that's true.
I have the crud.
That's an old wives' tale.
And the cedar is at an all-time high right now.
Okay, you got the crud. You definitely got the crud. Your voice is all different. You got a real high voice like this.
I sound like this. I sound better than I did. I actually performed.
That radio voice?
I have the radio voice. I performed a wedding on New Year's Eve, and so I was really worried about. I officiated a wedding, shall I say, on New Year's Eve, and so I was worried
Can you
about.
Not say you performed it?
Well, I mean, that sounds weird that I performed a wedding, right?
I don't think
Doesn't that sound weird?
Okay, you officiated a wedding on New Year's Eve and you were sick.
And I was sick.
And you didn't drink.
I didn't drink, and I was in bed by 11.
Which is an hour and a half after me.
Yeah.
So.
You're so much fun.
Yeah, I am. I'm a ball of laughs. All right, let's take a little break and get Barrett in here. Sit tight. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit CapitalFarmCredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
And we're back with Barrett Criswell, who is the FCA Area Director. Before we get started, tell us some dad jokes, Barrett.
I'd be happy to do that. My grandmother,
go ahead.
My grandmother, when she was 65, she started walking 10 miles a day. Today, she's 92, and we have no idea where she is.
This is going to go. This is how the interview's starting right now. This is going to go. I'm on cold medicine, so maybe it'll.
Yeah, that's why your voice is so high.
My voice is so high.
Wow. Barrett, welcome to the show.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much.
Barrett. We're so glad to have you here. And you're also a podcast host, too, as well.
Host, yes, and guest.
And guest. Host and guest. The FCA guy.
Well, I want to thank me.
I want to thank me for being here.
I want to
thank me for being here today.
No, I appreciate it. Steve's been a big help with my podcast, and I do have a podcast. It's only got 22 episodes, but it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been.
I've listened, and they're very good.
Oh, thank you very much. It's all about content.
Yeah.
And I work with
that was the number one thing I told you, wasn't it? It's like all the other stuff people can put up with if the content is good.
I listen.
And so you're interviewing coaches, superintendents, athletic directors all across the Central Texas area?
Yes. With my job, I am responsible for Hays County and Caldwell County. So I work with coaches, and I also work with administration and teachers. So I work with mostly football. I work with all coaches. And so I interview them.
Not just football coaches.
Not just football.
Okay.
No, we're not just football ministry.
Okay.
We are a ministry to coaches and athletes.
So what exactly is FCA? What is the mission statement of FCA?
FCA stands for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Started in 1954. The mission is to lead all coaches and athletes into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and His church. That's what we do. And so we do that through what we call engagement, equipping, and empowering. That's kind of how we have what we call discipleship. And so to best describe that is I walk on campus, basically, and I walk into the head football coach's office, who's typically your athletic director. And I let him know who we are. And sometimes he'll know FCA. And they know that we're more about the development of young people and coaches. And so we try to develop a relationship with those coaches. That way we can get time with other coaches on staff and some of their athletes. And so we do things called huddles. You would call them meetings, I guess. But because we are in the sports world, and we were started by a basketball coach in 1954, that we do call them huddles. And that's how we invite folks to come in there. And everybody's welcome to come to our huddles.
I'm sorry.
No, I just want to ask, how's that work with, you can go onto any campus?
You know, it's interesting because we are a faith-based organization. The reason we're allowed on campus is because we're a student-led ministry.
That's what
Student-led ministry. Yeah. Okay.
Which is very critical to what we do.
Yeah, I was going to say, because otherwise you're an outside organization that wants to come into the school. So this has to be led by the students. They have to want it on campus.
That's correct. So what we do is we work with coaches. Coaches then would work with the students. And that allows us to be on campus. And we're one of the only faith-based organizations that can go on campus and on a regular basis. And so
is that campus? I guess it is campus by campus, because if you don't have kids, athletes on the campus that want to have an FCA presence there, then you can't go. Is that right?
Well, because they're student-led, right? So if the students don't want to lead it, then there isn't.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about somebody listening that would take the position that, well, wait a minute, I don't want them proselytizing to my kids in the school.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because we are on campuses, and because we're allowed there because we are student-led, and we are welcoming to everybody. You're welcome to come to an FCA huddle. We would love for you to come to our huddles. Because it is student-led, they invite speakers to come in. And because the coaches are there leading the students, it's not me doing that.
Got it.
So there are other organizations. There's 150 organizations at Dripping Springs High School.
Oh, I didn't know that. Jeez.
Is FCA a Texas organization?
It is not. We're an international organization.
Okay.
International. We started in Oklahoma, but we have a state FCA group. We have an Central Texas FCA. And so I handle southwest Austin, which is all of Hays County, all of Caldwell County. So that includes Dripping Springs, Wimberley. You've got Hays, CISD, which are 3 high schools. You've got San Marcos. Now I have Luling and Lockhart.
Jeez.
So
that's a big territory.
What do you think are some of the unique problems that athletes face in regards to their Christian walk versus other, I guess, organizations? You know, I mean, how is
or
FCA
just Christian kids
in general?
In general, in this day and age.
Let's just talk about kids.
Yeah.
What are they faced with these days?
Yeah.
When you and I grew up, all of us grew up, is a little bit different. Kids these days are inundated with a lot more information. They can get it more readily. There's a lot more opportunities for them to fall into, I don't know the right word. I don't want to.
Well, just social media trappings too. All of that junk that's out there.
I just think what kids are exposed to, what the eye gate is exposed to, and what they're hearing is so much more than what we were interested in.
Yeah.
Let's take for instance, fentanyl.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing on campus.
Huge.
There's PSA announcements that go on every almost 20 seconds at football games. I mean, they're constantly reminding parents and kids. That was not something we even considered. I'd say pornography, the eye gate is so easy to stumble on it. There's bullying.
The eye gate, you mean just you see, what your brain takes in through what you see during the day.
I'm not a doctor, but I know that when something is burned into your memory, it's kind of there. And so, with social media, you mentioned social media, bullying is such a big deal now. The way kids communicate is very poorly in a lot of ways. They don't know how to express themselves. They feel isolated a lot of times. So you asked me about the ministry aspect of it. We're not the church. We don't pretend to be the church. What we want people to do is get involved in a local church. We're a parachurch ministry is what we
Do you
call
help them do that? Do you help them
Absolutely.
get plugged in other churches like, Life Austin? I know Brock Stamps was always very involved. Do you help kids that are searching for like that get plugged in, or do the churches kind of?
In fact, we invite our youth pastors to come and be part of our groups. Absolutely. All the time. We, here in the Dripping Springs area, if it's Hays CISD or Wimberley, even in Luling and Lockhart, we invite the churches and a lot of the youth pastors to come be a part of our group, just because we know how vital it is for them to get plugged in.
How different is FCA from Young Life? Or
That's really funny you say that, because where I go to church, guys will wear their Young Life hats, and I just go, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I just go, but Kurt, who is the area director here, I guess he's the area representative here for Young Life. We're actually going to try to partner because our mission is the same.
Yeah,
our mission is exactly the same: to further the kingdom. To present Christ to these kids, regardless if it's FCA or if it's Young Life. We just have a different way we approach kids. We kind of lean toward the athletic side a little bit. I'm not saying they don't. It's just a different group of kids.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking about, like why FCA is really appealed towards these kids in the athletic realm. My son Tate and Logan and Kendall, they were all in FCA. Actually, as a matter of fact, you talk about the Young Life hat. All of my kids have an FCA patch on their Letterman's jacket from Dripping Springs.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Tate was very involved with FCA back in the day. I have a funny story about FCA about that. Tate was going to an early practice, and FCA was early in the morning, like 6:30 or whatever time it was. And he was going down, what's that road?
Sportsplex.
And he got stopped for speeding. And he had his Letterman's jacket on. He's like, where are you going? So he's like, you going to football? And he goes, oh, yes, but I have an FCA meeting. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to let you off on a warning. I was like,
Played the FCA card.
FCA got him off on a warning.
Michelle, I'm going to I think I know the question you're going to ask. I'm going to go ahead and maybe answer that question for him. athletes have such an influence on kids. I mean, the professional athletes and college athletes has such an influence on kids. Coaches have a tremendous influence on kids.
They can make or break a kid.
Really can.
There's a saying that coach says that goes a long way. A lot of these kids that are in our schools, not necessarily DRIP, but some other places, are single family. There are some schools I have that are 100% free lunch. They're single family homes. A coach is that dad to that student or that athlete. Whether they take that responsibility or not, that's kind of a role that they have.
That's the male role model that child looks up to in their life.
Oh, I can totally see that. You know, when this community lost,
it doesn't have to be male. That's the role model that the child looks up to.
When they lost Coach Tuck, that was really hard on this small town. I mean, we were still small town. And Tate has a quote that Tuck used to tell them, something like wrap them up like cordwood or something like that on the back of his Letterman's jacket too. But I see that they kind of step in and have like this male strong figure in their life, and they're very influential.
Coaches have such an impact, and they can have such a positive impact. I ask coaches all the time when I'm doing Bible studies or I'm in conversation with them, I said, Coach, you ever have kids come back and tell you how much they appreciate you? And they go, oh yeah, I've got, kids that come back occasionally and it's always great. I said, what do they tell you? They tell you, hey, thanks for teaching me how to do a 3-point stance, or,
right,
how to swing a baseball bat or something. They go, oh no, they always tell me, thanks for being so hard on me, or thanks for caring about me.
Teaching me a good work ethic, or how to persevere through difficult times, those kind of things.
Well, let's talk about the seedy side of coaching, though. The bad coaches out there, the coaches that are not as encouraging.
FCA try and come alongside some of these coaches that are maybe struggling to help them be better role models?
Absolutely. They're our first point of entry into it. So we walk alongside all coaches. We do discipleship with coaches. I have coaches I walk alongside that are kind of trying to find their way maybe their faith, and they have some questions. I'm happy to walk through them with that. We have coaches that are growing, that are pretty mature, that we walk alongside too. And we talked about that part about engaging, equipping, and empowering. So as we engage with coaches and kind of get to know them, then we kind of equip them a little bit, kind of like teach them. And then we empower them. We want them now to lead.
Well, yeah, because I think that some of the first experience of bullying has happened from coaches, especially back in the day, Pop Warner days and stuff like that. And,
I wanted to talk about that because both of you now have mentioned bullying. And bullying, when I was growing up, was some kid waited for you in the hall and punched you in the arm as you walked by.
That's just me, Steve, when you come in.
Michelle still does that now, Barrett. Every day I walk down the hall and she jumps out, boom, and hits me in the shoulder. But now it's mostly online bullying, right? It's making fun of somebody for something about their personality or their who they are or how they look online, and just driving them down into the dirt. And so it's real important for coaches to be aware of that, isn't it?
Again, coaches, you mentioned good coaches and bad coaches. I'm not going to say what's good and what's bad. I will say this: when I do talk to coaches and I see how they act or how they respond on the field, I'll ask them. They'll say, "Well, that's the way I was coached."
Doesn't mean it's
God.
right. Yeah,
isn't that what we say about being a parent sometimes? Like, well, that's the way my dad raised me, so
and that's
all I know.
And I tell people my mother gets smarter as I get older.
Yeah,
because the things she told me were true.
Right.
But it's kind of true. It's the way you were parented, the way you're going to kind of parent that probably that same way. And that's the way coaches do sometimes. That's the way they were coached, or that's the way they think they know to coach. It's not always true. I have a coach who's been extremely successful. He never raises his voice. The loudest I ever hear him raise his voice is when he's doing the prayer before our devotional. And I have some coaches, their octave is up here constantly. And so I think they lose the attention of some of their athletes because they can't go any higher. You never know when he's really being serious or he's just trying to get it's something we work with. We work with all those coaches, and most high schools have about 40 to 50 coaches.
I don't think sometimes these coaches that come in, that they realize the influence too that they have over these kids. and
The younger
and
coaches,
impact.
younger coaches don't. They're still trying to make a name for themselves, and they feel like they're judged by winning and losing. The older coaches will be a little more relaxed sometimes.
I tell you, I've coached sports, but with little kids, 6, 8, 10, 12-year-olds.
Are you a bully? Were you a bully
I'm
to
a
6-year-olds?
But I remember when my kids were little, and when they're 3 or 4 or 5 and they're kicking the soccer ball around, they don't even know which way to go. Not so much. But when you get around their 6, 7, 8-year-old kids and you start realizing that how you handle yourself on the sideline, they're looking at you for direction. And if I get mad and yell at somebody, then my players are more likely to do that. And I think about a high school athlete or a high school coach with high school athletes. The way you interact with those kids can determine like the course of their life. It can be something you just say off the cuff that could affect that child for maybe for years, if not the rest of their life.
This may be too
Big
much
responsibility.
Yeah, it may be too much information, but I know there's some kids that have a really tough home life. They're getting yelled at home.
Nobody's going to be surprised to hear that, though.
Right.
I mean,
But when they come
just
to
the way it is.
when they come to school, it could be a safe haven for them where they feel safe. But then if the coach is yelling at them, it's just like being at home.
My husband, it's funny because my kids will repeat this, but my husband had a professor one time tell him, you don't understand because you don't want to understand. And this was back 1980, 81, something like that, when he was first in college. And to this day, he still refers back to it. It was just, he couldn't name the professor, he couldn't name the class, but he sure as heck could name the quote that really impacted him. And so,
well, I can tell you, I went to school and I played college tennis, and so.
Oh, I do know that. Yeah.
Michelle stalked you, Barrett. She knows everything. You know that 6th grade girlfriend you had? Michelle knows her name.
So interesting. The counselor at that college, big tennis fan. So he was kind of a mentor a little bit to me. I didn't have a dad growing up. And so coaches, that's why coaches have been so critical to me and so important to me. He told me one time, you're talking about quotes, he said, Barrett, swallow some humble pie and you'll grow a little bit.
Ooh, wow. That's a good one. There's an
swallow some
title.
humble pie. You mentioned you playing tennis. I found a little clip from 1979 when you were with
Gladewater High School?
Gladewater High School. You were at the 3A tennis bracket, and you were defeated by a kid by the name of Steve Reza from Claiborne.
Steve Reza, he beat me twice.
And he beat you, and he ended up winning
He
the
did.
boys 3A singles state championship. Does that burn a little bit? Me bringing his name up? To you?
Michelle, let me tell you, I played Steve early in the year, and he beat me 4-4 in Cleburne. I remember exactly the day. I knew I had him in the semifinals at state, and I knew though I think if I stayed with him long enough that I could win the match. And it came down to 1 point. I can tell you exactly what that point was because he'd won the first set. It was close second set. I was ahead, and he went to hit a backhand down the line, my forehand, and I knew he was starting to cramp. And all I had to do is lay that into the cross court, and I probably would have won that set, and I think I would have won the match, and I missed that volley.
You missed it, huh?
I missed it, but I remember that match. I mean, I can tell you. Steve
Isn't it
Reza.
funny? See, I'm telling you that the fact that I brought it up.
Well, we played against each other in college.
Well, what brought you to tennis? Like, why tennis? It's
Well,
not like tennis is a big sport.
We got to kind of go back a little bit. Did you grow up in Cleburne?
Not at all. Nope. I'll give you a quick history on if you're interested.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, if you're interested. My dad, my mom was a rangerette. Yay. If y'all know-
yes.
And Miss Kilgore.
My mother was a rangerette
Is that right?
as well.
Oh my.
Yeah.
They might know each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been to
Steve does not know what a rangerette is.
I know I'm not the only one. There's listeners out there right now going,
They're
what
the-
the heck is a rangerette?
They are the most famous dance team ever.
A precision drill team.
So-
started in the 1940s.
So
I think.
your mom was a rangerette and
Yep.
your mom was a rangerette?
Yep.
That doesn't
Junior
sound
college.
right.
Yep.
And Gussie Nels Davis started that organization. They're still today the premier precision drill team, college drill team.
Oh, wow.
They travel all over the world, perform for diplomats all over the world. They get parades, that kind of thing. So it's quite an honor to be that. My mother was Miss Kilgore.
Look at that.
My grandmother was Miss Belton.
Wow.
I could have been a beauty queen.
Well, you are in our.
yeah.
So is that where'd you grow up?
So Kilgore, Texas,
Uh-huh.
East Texas is where my mother and grandmother are from. And so my mother married in college. They moved. He was a military guy. So we moved to San Antonio. I was born in San Antonio
Okay.
on the Air Force Base. They moved to Phoenix Air Force Base. They got a divorce. We moved back to Kilgore. So I was there.
How old were you when you moved back to Kilgore?
4 or 5.
Okay.
And so I was there to about first grade, second grade. And then my mother went back to school. So we went to Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches.
So Stephen F. Austin. So that's third grade. So she finished. Then we went to Nacogdoches, Louisiana. Nacogdoches, Louisiana. So if you know those, they're Indians and they're brothers. So we went 4th, 5th, and 6th grade there. And then, so she got out. We went to 7th and 8th grade. I went to Harlingen,
Oh, Harlingen. That's where I'm from, the Valley.
the Rio Grande.
Yeah.
And so
Harlingen Cardinals.
I know, but I went to gay junior high.
Oh, yeah. My brother did too. Yep.
Yeah, we're the gay Raiders.
Is that not a
It's
joke?
true. No, it's
It's
true.
the Gay Raiders?
It is.
They were, yeah.
Are they still the Gay Raiders?
They're not. They changed
No.
the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
They changed the name. It's
What year was that?
it was like 75, 76. Like 77, I started as a freshman, and
You may have been in with my brother, my older brother.
yeah,
Book out.
might have. So the story was, I used to go back to Kilgore with my grandparents and play baseball every year. That's what I loved to do.
You're a hell of an athlete.
I loved baseball. I mean, I loved baseball.
Didn't
And
you tell me you were a semi or professional cyclist at one
I
point,
rode
too?
for Subaru for a little bit,
Yeah.
but so I played baseball. I love baseball.
So we're getting to the tennis story. We're getting somewhere along this line. We're
This
coming
is the
come to
tennis
tennis
story. Okay.
somewhere. So
so-
you're in Harlingen. You're playing baseball.
No, not Harlingen.
Okay.
So playing baseball in the summers.
Okay.
And then one summer I couldn't go home. I just couldn't. So I was in Harlingen, and the Valley is a big tennis place.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll start playing tennis. So I did.
So you started in
7th grade.
in Harlingen?
Mm-hmm. Pendleton Park.
Oh,
you know where
wow.
that is.
Yes,
Big-
I do know where that is.
Yep. We lived in the apartments across there, and I started playing in 7th grade. And I remember, I didn't know what I was just starting, right? So I just played all the time. I watched videos. I had a book. I read a book how to play, and I watched people play because I literally could not afford anything. So my mother-in-law lived in government housing. We were in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So it's been, without a dad, no brothers, no sisters, mom's an only child. So very small family.
Yeah.
But so then 7th and 8th grade, then we moved back to East Texas, moved to Gladewater. And
Dang, you
I
moved
played
around a lot. I thought I moved around a lot. You moved around a bunch.
We did. And then I played football in 7th and 8th grade for the Gay Raiders. And
I was going to call this episode Swallow Some Humble Pie and You'll Grow a Little Bit, but I think I'm just going to call it the Gay Raiders.
it works really good with our ministry. I appreciate that. So,
I wonder how many people would be surprised that Barrett was a Gay Raider.
This podcast is not going to be promoted at all on any stream.
you have to hit that little button at the bottom that it has explicit.
I'm
It
going
has
to
explicit.
I'm going to use the hashtag
Gay
Gay
Raider.
Raider.
But it's true, though. Michelle knows it's true.
I love it. I love it.
We're the Gay
I'm
Raiders.
surprised
We're the
they
Gay-
made him change the name. That's great. You never forget.
So, but then, I was in Gladewater, moved from the beach basically to East Texas, which is a country town and small town, and played tennis and football. I was starting quarterback for the football team for 3 years and played tennis for 4.
So you were quarterback and a tennis player. That was confusing.
And then you went to college and played tennis in
did.
college.
I did.
You went to Tyler Junior College.
I did.
And then you graduated UT.
And they were number 1 in the nation in tennis.
Tyler was?
Tyler Junior College. Yeah.
Okay.
They're really good. I mean, they're really good. I had some offers.
Did you play tennis at UT?
I walked on.
Okay.
You had a scholarship of some sort.
I did. I played in scholarship. I never paid for anything. It was great.
Barrett, I've known you like 10 years. I didn't know any of this stuff about you.
Well, I probably don't talk about it very much.
You think he's going to tell you, hey, I'm Barrett. I'm a Gay Raider.
I'm a Gay Raider.
You're not going to say.
Well, let me.
Barrett's like, this podcast is
Let's see if we can
canceled.
get this podcast back on track.
Well, let me turn the direction a little bit because I think this is where the sports and faith and coaching will come into play.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. So you're an athlete in high school, junior high, and in college, and then you did a bunch of other things between now and FCA. How'd you get into FCA in the first
Well,
place?
in high school, a gentleman, Coach Harry Haggard, was a coach there, and he had come from New Boston, and same year I was a freshman, and he had been involved in FCA, and he decided to start an FCA huddle at our high school, and he invited me to participate, and I kind of had an interest, and I thought that'd be kind of nice. We'd gone to church, Methodist church, for a long time, and so I went, and I thought, I don't know if I should say this on the air or not, but this is my view of Christians when I was at that age. I thought they were kind of weak. I just thought they didn't really do much.
That's honest.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like they did much. I just didn't see.
There wasn't a lot of support back then, though.
Very
70s,
different.
80s.
Christian music was just starting to come about, and just wasn't like they want to play games or just not to belittle that at all. It's just what my view of that was at the time. So he invited me to a state convention, a state FCA convention, and I saw Roger Staubach, Tom Landry.
How old were you now?
I was probably a sophomore in high school.
In high school, okay.
And to see these athletes, people we look up to, like Tom Landry, and who doesn't know Tom Landry or Roger Staubach, those guys who profess to know Jesus Christ. I mean, they needed him in their life. They wouldn't be who they were without him. It made me realize that you could, be an athlete and be a Christian. And so that really was the time that I gave my life to Christ at that time. And it was a big, big step in the right direction for me because ultimately he's kind of like, I didn't have a dad growing up.
Yeah.
So I had a little chip on my shoulder because all people I knew had dads, and they really got to do stuff with their dads, got to go fishing or hunting or play baseball or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had a little chip on my shoulder. So I kind of had a little bit of I beat people just because I was ticked.
Yeah.
Did your dad just not choose to be in your life?
Yeah, I think as far as I know, my mother was wonderful. Okay. My mother was wonderful. She never spoke ill about him. He had a drinking problem, unfortunately. Fighter airplane pilot, brilliant. But he had a drinking problem. And my mom just is unfortunate. So one of the reasons I came to UT, I wouldn't have come to UT. I was not looking to come to UT after. I was looking at A&M, actually. I was going to go play tennis at A&M. But really felt God was calling me to come to Austin. My dad lived in Austin.
Really? Did you reconnect with him while he was here?
So on July 4th, 1983, I graduated junior college in 83. I was driving to Austin to go to orientation at UT. And this is, I can see the fireworks going off. This is when I'm driving.
Really?
And I drive up to his house.
And he doesn't know you're coming.
He knows I'm coming, but I hadn't seen him since I was 5.
Oh, jeez.
So, I'm sitting now across the table from this gentleman, who's my dad.
Yeah.
Who I don't know.
In name only. Yeah.
I don't
And what was that like?
That was tough. I
Probably you probably in your head imagined what that reunion would be like, and I bet it was nothing like what you imagined.
I think I was hardened to it because
Yeah.
I'd grown up without it, that I was kind of self-preservation. Mom was working, and I spent a lot of time by myself. And so I spent a lot of time, in sports with coaches. No, it was, I didn't know what to think about it. My mom never spoke ill of him. He was a really smart guy. He could be really funny.
Did you keep in contact with him after that?
So, he had a drinking problem. So about a semester I lived there at UT, and then I moved on campus, and I was there on campus in a little small apartment, and I'd go visit him, and stuff. And then my senior year, spring of my senior year, I got a call from a friend. He said, "Hey, I can't get hold of your dad." I said, "Well, okay, let me go out there." So I drove out there, and I walked in, and I found my father dead in his house.
Barrett. Oh, man.
I was a senior in college.
Wow. Jeez.
It was like April.
Did he have any other children? No. So you were his only living.
Wow.
So you're a senior in college, and now you're having to deal with all the BS dealing with his estate and.
Yep, that's exactly.
Oh, that's fun.
That is exactly that's exactly right. So everything, I just and I can just as clear as day, I can remember going in there and he's laying there, I'm like, okay, and so I have to call somebody, because I don't know what to do really. So I call some people and I get hold of a friend. I said, "Hey, I hate to tell you this, but I think my dad's dead. What do I need to do?" And you just heard silence on the other end of it.
Yeah, it'd be a hard question to answer.
Then he kind of got himself together, told me I need to call these people.
Yeah.
They bring everybody.
Yeah.
So here's a big commotion, and I remember sitting at the table, and they're asking me some questions, and they're just wheeling my dad out, with a,
in the gurney and
in a bag, and I was like, this is final. But the one saving grace I can say is I got to share the good news of the gospel with him while I was there. So I know God brought me there for a reason. I got to visit with him for a couple of years, got to share the gospel with him, which I was very thankful for. I don't know what his decision is, but I got to share the gospel.
Yeah.
Barron, going through his stuff, did you learn a little bit about him when you were having to pack his things up and his history? And because hurt people, right?
Yeah. I think he, when we'd sit across the table, and I think he felt a little regret that he didn't keep up with me a little bit. When I came to the state tournament, you had mentioned that match that you mentioned earlier. He was there at that match.
So you didn't know it?
I knew he was there.
You did know?
Yeah, I knew he was there. And I was so heartbroken after that match because I played it perfectly. I just missed
that one shot.
I just missed that one shot. That would have made all the difference in the world.
Oh, so I bring up the one match that was the most painful one.
No,
you're welcome.
I remember all of them pretty well. And that was a big one because I knew that he was a better player, but I knew if I played a certain way. But my dad came over, and he didn't have any idea what to say. Mm-hmm. You can imagine because he
didn't have a connection with you, didn't know you.
Mm-hmm. So that was tough. I think I was sad in the fact I never got memories with Dad, but I was so disconnected too with him over the many years that I did not know him. But I felt like he missed out.
It makes so much sense now why you're so passionate about this organization and kind of you're being led to hold these coaches to a higher standard, because it seems like to me in your life, these coaches that you had all throughout from early to college and even now, that you had several coaches that made impacts on you.
Very positive impacts. Yeah, absolutely. And so I know the impact a coach can have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Positively and negatively.
That's very true. But I've been very fortunate to have very positive influences in my life.
I want to ask you, you mentioned role models and like Tom Landry, and you were talking about that conference you went to. It seems on a certain level that Christianity is sort of under attack in the United States right now, and the athletes don't feel as open about sharing their faith as they used to. Do you see that?
I see just the opposite.
You see the opposite?
Oh, I see every athlete's, hey, I just want to give glory to God.
You do. That's great. I'm glad.
I feel like people are mocking them more than anything.
I hear it. There's something to say it. There's something to believe in God and to believe God. There's something very different about that. Mm-hmm. It's like, I believe in God. Or are you a follower of Christ? I say, I believe in God. Yeah, I believe. A lot of people believe there's a God. But do you believe God and what he said? And are you going to follow that? So a lot of athletes, they'll, praise him, I'm blessed, I'm going to give him power. Then they turn around and do something
completely different.
That just doesn't resonate with
I was
that
thinking
statement.
about, this has been a few years ago now, but the Tim Tebow thing where, he would say a prayer on the sideline and they would film him and they would make fun of him. And I don't think he ever really had that great a career, mostly because a lot of doors were shut for him.
Well, he had an unbelievable college career.
No, I agree. No, I didn't mean that. I mean, like, as through the next steps, it just seemed like those doors didn't get open for him. And I thought, at the time, I remember watching it on TV, thinking, man, they don't like him just because of his faith.
What's interesting is that people like conflict. That's why there's drama.
Yeah,
that's no surprise.
But Christians aren't in conflict. They're like, man, we love people. We love. And they don't. Well, that's boring.
So then they try and make conflict about that.
Yeah, and some people use a platform, I think, the wrong way, like when they had all the kneeling going on.
Yeah, the Kaepernick. So you have the Kaepernicks that are celebrated, and then you have the Tim Tebows that are mocked.
And it's just, it's just, but I think Christians...
And they're actually doing the exact same motion. They're just doing it for two different reasons,
It's who you're celebrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Who you're bringing attention
That's
to.
what I mean.
So, and Tim, I don't know Tim, but he's involved with FCA. And so, he now has a foundation. He's, doing great things all over the world with his foundation.
You, though, just from way back in my stalking, my expert stalking abilities, I saw that you were co-president of at Tyler Junior College when you were a freshman. And I actually found a newspaper article from that. But the fact that you've always kind of injected yourself to just succeeding and going forward. You're on Collins Hope. You're with Foster's Village.
Yeah, ever since I've known you, you've always been trying to reach out to make the world a better place.
Oh, well, thank you.
Everything that you've been involved in has had that goal.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been very fortunate. Excuse me. I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways. Like moving to Gladewater, I met the right people. Most people grew up in Gladewater, but I met the right people.
Yeah.
And then being a good athlete got me accepted pretty quickly. I was number one on the team as a freshman. So that got me, that kind of got me on the right path, I guess, kind of accepted a little bit. And then funny thing about that, I was like, Mr. Gladewater High School. I was most outstanding senior
Mr.
boy.
Gladewater.
Mr. Gladewater High School. There's another title. They're just coming and going here.
I'm so sorry. I'm coughing.
But I will say, though, that because my mother has such a compassion for people, she's a people person, and my grandmother's very, she was very proper, if you will. She was the secretary at a Methodist church in Kilgore for 35 years. And my grandfather was the one that was a little bit, go out in the garage and have a little, sip of the whiskey and stuff. But he owned a sporting goods store. And so he always kept me pretty equipped with baseball gloves and bats and things. And so
you've been blessed along the way, and now you're trying to share some of those blessings with other people.
There's no greater joy for me than spend time with people and encourage them and support them if I can. That's a great joy. I get great energy from that,
right?
If you will.
Yeah.
My wife's, Rochelle, who you've met.
And we've had on the podcast.
Love her.
She likes people too, not quite as much as I do. So, there's a point where I'm taking off with people, right? I just love people because I want.
One of the things I wrote down is you've never met a stranger. Like if you go in the gym, like I go in the gym, I got my earbuds on, man, I'm doing my thing. I might say hi to 2 or 3 people I already know. You'll go in that same room, and by the time you're done, you'll have had a deep conversation with 6 of the people in the room. I don't know how you do that. What do you think is different about you, or how the way you're brought up that allows you to just you're not just having a little, hey, how's the weather conversation. You're having these, things about these people by the time the conversation's done. How'd you learn that?
Can I say that what I think it is? Because at times I'm very out there, just like you, and I never meet a stranger, but it's because we kind of felt when we were invisible when we were kids, maybe.
You think that's what it is, Barrett?
And so for me, I just injected myself into, I'm always
I think moving,
love people.
I think, my mother is tremendous. She taught me a lot about people. My grandmother did too, about the correct way to treat people. It was always shaking hands, looking them in the eye.
You always have this little grin on your face too, so you're very approachable. Yeah.
Mischievous.
You do. I mean, when you go up and meet somebody, you have that little grin on your face. So I think it makes their guards not up.
You know what that is? That's a dad joke in the making. He's got one in the background. Barrett, your path to fatherhood wasn't a traditional path to fatherhood, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Kind of. Can I go the first question I have, because I think it'll segue into that. So I met you at a Collins Hope training swim like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was a pretty damn good open water swimmer. And first open water swim that we did, you and JD left me like I was standing on the bank just watching. I was like, who the hell are these guys? You just took off. And so I've always been impressed with how strong a swimmer you were. And then shortly thereafter, I think within the next year or so, you got cancer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that cancer, your cancer, how you discovered it, and that journey that you got through, because it was a hard one. It was a difficult cancer.
This is gonna piggyback on some things. Yeah. I think this will be important to the listeners to understand a little bit about me and kind of my passions in my life. So you mentioned 2015.
Yeah.
Right after the Kerrville Triathlon. I just won the Kerrville Triathlon.
Yeah.
And I was probably the best shape I'd been in.
Yeah, you were strong, man.
I was in my mid 50s at the time, and I was really in good shape. But I was having some issues, and so I thought I better go to the doctor. And I went, and so it's prostate cancer.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, your PSA is like, if you know anything about prostate cancer, your PSA should be 4 or less, right?"
Right.
Well, mine was 42.
Oh, geez, man.
He looked at me and goes, "Well, it could be cancer."
Oh, God.
And I go, "Well, okay." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He goes, "Well, let's test it again. Let's do some antibiotics. Let's test it again." So I came back 49. He goes, "Okay, I'm sending you to a urologist right away." So urologist looks at it. He goes, "I'm pretty sure it's cancer, but we're gonna check and do some biopsies." So he does that. He doesn't even wait till me come back. He calls me at home. He goes, "Hey, we got to get you to the doctor real quick."
Really?
So
Jeez.
we,
Do you feel like you left it too long to discover it?
I didn't even know.
You didn't know.
No, this all happened okay, let me tell you, this happened it's a Wednesday, it's a Thursday, it's a Monday.
Really that fast? Wow. Jeez.
And so they said, well, we need to get you in. So through some investigation, we found a doctor in Houston who specialized in aggressive prostate cancer. Mine was considered aggressive prostate cancer. So we went, and he said, we thought we were going for a consultation, just to kind of learn more. And this gentleman, he had a different thought process on how to treat aggressive prostate cancer. He laid it out for Rochelle and myself, and we're sitting in this little room, and, we'd just been diagnosed with cancer. And he goes, "Okay, we can start tomorrow."
Oh, geez. Wow.
And my wife and I kind of looked at each other like, "No, I think, can we maybe give us a week or give us a couple of days to kind of figure
Process
out what
all
we're
this,
doing?"
yeah.
I said, because we felt comfortable with him. And so what was this journey going to look like? Mm-hmm. And I'm coming off the best shape I've ever been in, which probably helped me survive.
I'm sure it did, yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, so we came back and we went to Houston for 16 weeks.
And you had what?
We had the chemotherapy. Yeah, I have a port. I did right here, and they inject you. Some are 24-hour fusions.
Wow.
And they're putting, if you know anything about chemotherapy, it's just poison.
Yeah.
It's just poison. So, but I will say this, when we heard we had cancer, because of our faith, I was like, okay, we have cancer. Let's go. What are we going to do about it?
How long have you guys been married at the time?
Just a couple of years. We got married in 10, so about 5 years.
So you're thinking, okay, we were
older. And we were an older couple. I mean,
yeah.
I got married at 48. Okay. Now, I will say this. I'm very proud of this fact, I guess. My wife is 16 years younger than I am.
Oh.
How about that?
And you're still keeping
And
up
I'm
with
smiling,
it.
still have that grin on my face, right? So for her, she's in her 30s.
Uh-huh.
And so we were kind of, what are we going to do about this? And so, I mean, it was literally like, what are we going to do? And the part that really kind of goes we don't talk about much because we just don't get in these conversations is we thought we'd do the sperm donation thing and all that. And then when she went in to see about her, she could not have kids.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was not.
So it was double whammy.
It was not even thought of. We didn't even consider that. It wasn't even a consideration when we were thinking about this. So, of course, this is, this was after our chemotherapy, and then we had to do it all so quick. And so after 16 weeks, we got a little rest. Our body got a little reprieve, and from going back and forth every week, and then we had surgery on that, and then after that, I had 8 weeks every day of radiation.
Jeez.
So,
I saw you a couple times during that time, and it was taking its toll on you.
It's tough, and I'll say this: if there's anybody out there that has cancer in their family, or they have somebody, let me encourage you though this way: the patient who has cancer, it's not a good thing to hear, and they're going to go through some trials and some challenges. But let me encourage you this way: take care of the caretakers.
Caretakers, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rochelle came with me on all those. We sat, and she slept in the chair right beside me, and I mean, they can't do much.
So you're saying if you're friends or family of somebody that is married or has somebody that is going through cancer, support the people that are supporting the cancer.
Because everybody wants to help that person. How can I help Barrett?
All the focus is on you.
That's really profound, I think.
Because you need to understand that, like, when I'm in the hospital or I'm being treated, she's just there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing she can do. And she is watching this stuff go, in here, losing my hair. I'm sure I'm definitely not the person I was, because it just takes a toll on your body. So she had to go through all that.
If I remember right, you lost a lot of weight and then you got really
the
you
steroids,
were retaining
right?
a lot of fluid or something. Isn't that how it went? You got really skinny and then all of a sudden you ballooned out.
Yeah, I can tell you some really interesting stories. I carried this little fanny pack that was doing my chemotherapy stuff. And I remember it's red. And we were at the movie one day and clothes are hanging on me, and I'm kind of looking. And this little kid looks over and I can see he's looking, and I look down and I can see that.
The red stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid, poor kid, like I got to tuck it on my I just felt bad.
Yeah.
Here I looked, and after every treatment, I was beat, and I would take pills that literally had a skull and crossbone on the, on the
don't take
pill,
this.
on the pill bottle, but you had to take it, and.
How was your work during all of this?
I usually worked Monday through about Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go Wednesday, and by Friday and Saturday I was out. I couldn't do anything.
So now you're a dad.
So
how'd that journey?
Yes, yeah, that was what I wanted to get to. Now you're a dad.
Very simple. So when Rochelle find out, because I've always, adoption is part of the Bible. We're all adopted into the family of God. So for me, this was a natural. I just think there's so many kids. I want to give a plug to adoption agencies and people. There are so many kids that need to be adopted locally, not necessarily overseas. Mm-hmm. Our daughter is from Houston, and we use an agency out of Fort Worth.
How old was she when you
she
got
was
her?
10.
Oh, wow. So you adopted an older child.
We want to adopt older. Those kids, typically when they could be 5 and 6, their chances of being adopted is very, very low.
Yeah.
Even sadder than that, when kids age out of foster care, they don't have any support. There's nobody for them.
What do you think could be changed about that? I think it's really hard and expensive to adopt children.
I think there's a misnomer there. The agency we used, and this is the caveat: if you adopted an older child, they pay for the adoption.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So
who knew that? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I was going to ask you what it costs to do an adoption.
Well, it could be $30,000 or $40,000.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't investigate these options. They just assume because of what they've heard. Like they'll go overseas and they go, oh, you're going to go overseas and fly over and it's going to cost. And the country's closed, they open. But man, there's kids right here.
So that process, did you get to know her and visit with her and she was comfortable with you and you were comfortable with her? And is that how that all works?
She'd been in the foster care system for several years.
Okay.
Almost 4 years. And we first met her and we were supposed to go out into like a park and it's just kind of a casual thing. It was raining. So we met her at a restaurant. Okay. And she knows the process. She'd been through this.
She'd been through it a few times.
Have you ever, I think it needs to be said that, have you ever known how a child is taken into a foster care situation?
Well, I do, because I used to work with CPS. So.
And how tragic.
It's traumatic.
So usually just
traumatic
picked up out of their home and then dropped off in some stranger's house. It's a foster.
If there's a place to go.
If there is.
Where do they go if there isn't a place to go?
Office.
Yeah, they're sleeping in somebody's office.
They'll spend the night in an office. Mm-hmm. That's why when you talk about Foster Village and what Crystal and Nick are doing and what they're accomplishing in that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because there are usually 5 or 6 kids a night that are spending in a office space.
Hayes County office space. In a caseworker's office space.
And the other part of that is, like, say you become a foster parent, and you're approved to foster. They call you, Steve, and go, hey, Steve, I've got a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
You're like,
I've got nothing. Well,
that's why Foster Village is so huge. We had Crystal on the podcast 2 years ago, I think. The first year. But yeah, they have all the supplies. So if you're a foster parent and you're getting a 4-year-old and you have nothing, you can call Foster Village and they go, what size clothes? Here's all the toiletries. You need bed, whatever. They have all that stuff, and they either deliver it or you can pick it up.
This is part of that process we talked about earlier. It's not focusing on the child now. You're focusing on those caretakers.
Right.
A little bit.
That makes sense.
And it'll make their transition much better and more successful. So, yeah, we adopted. She came to live with us in September the 11th.
Oh, really?
Geez.
Yeah, and so she's 16 now.
Oh, good luck with that.
She's doing great.
She's a junior at Dripping Springs. We moved to Dripping Springs. We felt like it might be a better place for her to go to school.
So you moved here right after you adopted her?
Right before.
Right before. That's right. Okay.
We did. We were in Bowie School District, and we decided to move here. We thought it would be a better opportunity
That's
for
where
her.
we came from as well.
It was a little smaller then.
How do you feel the community has embraced her, your family?
We love what we do here. Our church here is Austin Ridge, and we have some great friends here. And there are a number of our friends who have adopted kids. You get to know these kids. You get to know these families, right?
Shared experiences.
And we share references with each other and different things because there's a lot of state benefits to being in it, in foster care. And there's also some therapies things and just all kind of little things you just don't know. And somebody's been through it and you can access those guys.
Do they still provide them college?
In-state tuition.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. That's one of the things that
The foster system does?
If they're adopted out. See,
so if you're a foster child and you get into UT, then you're...
Our situation was different because when we took our nephew in, we were an emergency family placement, but we were a family placement. So we didn't take him out. He was in the foster care system, but we didn't take him out of it. It's convoluted.
Yeah.
But he could have gotten free in-state tuition, but we chose to rescue him from sleeping on the floor.
That happens more than you know. We have a good friend, same thing happened. It happens all the time.
And it was unfortunate, he still came from a broken home and he still needed the services, but...
Barrett, how many of the coaches and kids that you, what would you call it, mentor to through FCA know your background, know the story that you've just told? Not just the cancer and the adoption, but your story.
Which part?
All of it. Where you grew up, your tennis. Do you share that stuff with them?
I do when it's relevant.
Okay. So you consider the circumstance, and then
absolutely,
if there's a lesson there, hey, when I was playing tennis. And
the worst thing you hate to hear is say, hey, when I did this or did that.
Yeah.
But when we're doing testimonial type things and we think it's relevant, I will certainly use that information. I've used cancer.
Yeah.
As a way to kind of, now you talk about, back in 15, I was pretty good shape. I just won the Kerrville Triathlon.
Uh-huh. I'd say you were in a lot better shape than pretty good shape.
Well, I can't hardly run now. I mean, I don't run at all. I don't bike anymore.
I've been trying to get you back in the pool for years.
And I have trouble sometimes, balancing.
Oh, yeah.
Because of some things that have happened with my legs and different things. So life's changed for me in that way. And that's been a big adjustment for me. I'm still working through that a little bit, as much as I love.
But this is your ministry.
You're an athlete.
Your FCA, that's your ministry. There's your workout. There's your exercise, is living your life through the ministry.
So if we back up way back in high school, I got my significance through sports.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was a number one tennis player. I was the quarterback on the football team. I was usually the better athlete. So I got a lot of significance from that because I didn't get it through a parenting situation. My mom was great. Don't get me wrong.
But not having a male figure, having your father,
So that was it's a big transition, right? So God's called me into the ministry, which I won't do anything else unless he calls me to do something else. I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I've been involved with FCA for quite some time and full time for 3 years here, but I can't imagine doing anything else at all. So,
well, this is where you're called to be. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. How can people find out more about FCA and how can they get involved?
Well, there's a couple ways. There's easily, everybody can tell you go to the website. We've got fcaaustin.org, which tells you a little bit about locally, and we're all listed there as our staff. It'd be fun. Hey, they go listen to our podcast. You talked about our podcast, yeah? They can't go to, what is it? They have to go to my Buzzsprout.
Buzzsprout, yeah. It's the FCA guy.
Podcast. .com.
FCApodcast.com. Yeah. Well, Barrett, it's been a lot of fun. It's funny to me that this podcast has allowed me to learn things about people that I consider good friends, and I've considered you a good friend.
Thank you.
And you've told me 45 minutes of things I didn't know anything about you, which has been great. I've loved it. It's been really a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. It's always interesting. I appreciate all your help to get my podcast.
Yeah.
Because this helped.
I was happy to do it.
Well, it's helped the ministry of FCA, and I think it's helped coaches too. So that's really where that is, and hopefully that'll continue to grow.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for sharing your servant heart with us, because I think it's really important for people to know where you came from and that you're choosing to share your story and your testimony to others.
Well, thank you. And you didn't have more dirt? You didn't pull up any more?
You know what? Well, the 6th grade girlfriend didn't answer the phone while I was having a coughing fit.
And just in the spirit of Barrett Criswell, you got to take us out with a dad joke.
Would be a good? Well, I'll give you one. It'll be what kind of lights did Noah have on the ark?
What kind of lights?
Floodlights.
Boom, boom, boom. All right. Well, thank you, Barrett. Thanks for coming on the show. Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit. Your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.